rules are slipping all these cats down in the under rules.
Lauro, do we have you? I think you're muted.
Sorry about that. I think the whole narco thing was still playing on my end, but Edwin Diaz and that entrance, I cannot wait to see him back out there next year. The Mets are going to be so much better when he comes back, but that's a subject for another day. I mean, welcome to Batter Up with I'm Lauro. We have a lot to talk about today. Before we get into all the playoff stuff and all that, Isaiah, how's it going, man?
Sorry about that. Dealing with some technical difficulties here, but I'm doing great, Lauro. This is our first Batter Up show that we've done since June, so it's great to have Batter Up back, man. Batter Up postseason palooza, man. I can't wait for this show. We've already had some really crazy games here in this first round of the playoffs, man. My Phillies have advanced to the second round, the NLDS, where we'll take on the Braves, man, in round number 2. It is truly a red October. That's why I got my Phillies shirt on, as well as my red Gatorade, just to celebrate the Phillies going to the next round. But man, a lot of great baseball to talk about tonight. You know, we're going to be making our picks for the rest of the playoffs. We're going to be talking about the managerial news and who's going to replace who in New York, San Francisco, and also in Los Angeles. So a lot of stuff to get into, man, and get ready for some wild and wacky playoff predictions, because with the baseball playoffs, the reason why everybody loves the baseball playoffs so much is because in baseball and in the baseball playoffs, it's always a lot of unexpected stuff happens, and they always say expect the unexpected. So I can't wait, man. It's going to be a great postseason, and your Dodgers play, I think, on Saturday, so that's going to be fun. And Rangers play on Saturday. Congratulations to Bruce Bochy, Corey Seager, and the Rangers for beating the Rays and advancing to the next round. The Phillies are going, and they'll be playing, I believe, either on Saturday or Sunday. So buckle up, man. The NLDS and the ALDS is about to get wild.
You're right, Isaiah. It is about to get wild, but we're going to start off with some news. Sorry about that. Had a mute here. So, anyways, we're starting with former Brewers general manager David Stearns was officially announced as the Mets' new president of baseball ops on Tuesday morning, filling a position that Mets owner Steve Cohen had been looking for in the last 2 years. I mean, my thought on this is that David Stearns is a great addition to that Mets front office. He'll work closely with Billy Epler. I think he'll be the final decision maker in how the roster is going to look. I mean, as comes to Pete Alonso, I don't expect Pete Alonso to get traded. I think the Mets are going to extend him. I think he is a guy that I think that the Mets are going to prioritize extending so that he doesn't hit the free agent market. And knowing that Pete Alonso is the face of the franchise for the Mets, Isaiah, you can't really it would be foolish for the Mets to trade Pete Alonso. But I also think that the Mets will keep Pete Alonso. I don't think they're going to trade Pete Alonso. And then the Mets and manager Buck Showalter parted ways on Sunday afternoon following a disappointing 75-87 season in wake of new president of baseball operations David Stearns taking over. I mean, who I think should be the Mets' new manager to replace Buck Showalter? I think it's got to be Craig Counsell. I think that the Brewers are probably not going to renew his contract. I think David Stearns is going to be on the phone with Craig Counsell, and I also think that Counsell would be good. I think it would be a decent fit for the Mets. I think Steve Cohen's going to overpay for him, and Craig Counsell I think is going to work with a bullpen featuring Edwin Diaz. I think the Mets are going to be more relevant with him as manager. And I think that the Mets should look into Craig Counsell as David Stearns has a friendship with Craig Counsell. So Isaiah, I'm going to start with you. I want to get your thoughts first on the David Stearns hire as the New York Mets general manager, and then also Buck Showalter stepping down as Mets manager. And then talk about your choice for who you think should be the next manager of the New York Mets.
Laurel, I'm not surprised that David Stearns became the new president of baseball ops for the New York Mets, because the Mets have been targeting him for like the last 2 years. And when he stepped down last year from the Brewers and when he took a year off, I thought it was trending this way. I thought it would be an absolute shock if David Stearns did not end up with the Mets. I mean, he grew up a Mets fan. He grew up listening to Gary Cohen on the radio, listening to Mets games late at night, going to Shea Stadium for Mets games. I mean, this dude grew up a Mets fan. He grew up going to games, listening to Mets games. And if he didn't end up in New York, it was because the Mets just severely fumbled getting David Stearns, and that was all it would have, or that's what it would take to not have David Stearns be the next president of baseball ops with the New York Mets. I think the Mets they hit a grand slam with this hire. David Stearns is an outstanding president of baseball operations. He did great things in Milwaukee. They always made the playoffs under his leadership, despite having a very small payroll. The Brewers always overachieved, and now when you think about the Mets, David Stearns is going to have lots of money to spend with Steve Cohen's big wallet. He's great with analytics. He's great finding some low-level players and end up making them into superstars. So I think it's going to be great for the New York Mets. They got a great mind now to spend Steve Cohen's money, and I expect David Stearns to make the New York Mets like the Los Angeles Dodgers and build them into a sustainable winner. I think that he'll be great for the New York Mets. And as far as should they trade Pete Alonso, no, because you need stars to build your team around. You need stars to build winners. And in a city like New York, you need a superstar. And the Mets have Francisco Lindor, but they also have their homegrown player in Pete Alonso. And you got to keep him. You never really get power hit. You can't really groom power hitting first basemen from scratch, and they don't fall on, or they don't grow on trees. So I think for the New York Mets, they have to keep Pete Alonso. He's a homegrown player. You got to keep players like that. And if they keep him with Lindor and David Stearns, I think will definitely transform the roster around them. I think that then the Mets will be able to have a sustainable winning team on the field year in and year out. So I think they definitely should keep Pete Alonso. They shouldn't trade him whatsoever. And David Stearns wanted Pete Alonso in Milwaukee. That's why the Mets tried before last season to get Pete Alonso, but they were rebuffed. And then at the trade deadline, they tried to get Pete Alonso as well, but they were rebuffed. So David Stearns has wanted Pete Alonso for a long time, and he would be absolutely foolish to deal Pete Alonso. And as far as the Buck Showalter news is concerned, I'm not surprised, because when you have a new president of baseball operations coming in, like a guy like David Stearns or an Andrew Friedman or Farhan Zaidi, you have to let them pick their own manager, because when you have a GM not having his own guy, then it always causes tension. It always causes friction, and it's always very, very awkward. And for a GM that is of a magnitude like those high-ranking officials like Stearns and Friedman and Zaidi, you got to let them pick their own guy, and they want to have their own guy line up with them philosophically. So I'm not really surprised that Buck Showalter is gone. I would have been shocked if he had stayed on with the Mets. And as far as who should replace him, I think I agree with you, Loro. It's 100% going to be Craig Counsell, because Craig Counsell, he's going to get let go from the Brewers because of what happened tonight after they got swept. We'll talk about that, the D-backs sweeping the Brewers later on in the show. But the Brewers should have gone much deeper than losing and getting swept out of the wild card round. They should have gone to at least the divisional round. They should have gone maybe to even the NLCS. But Craig Counsell, if he goes to New York, he'll get a team that has more talent, a bigger payroll to work with, an owner that wants to spend. And also, Craig Counsell's probably going to get a larger salary because he's one of the best managers in all of baseball, and Steve Cohen's going to give him whatever he wants. So, and it just makes a lot of sense that David Stearns, the former Milwaukee president of baseball ops, is also there as well. So they have a connection dating back to their days in Milwaukee. So that makes too much sense not to happen. I fully expect Craig Counsell to be the next manager of the New York Mets. And unless the Mets severely fumble it, there's no chance Craig Counsell is staying in Milwaukee.
I mean, Craig Counsell is a Wisconsin boy, but you know what? I think the Brewers might go in a new direction here. But Isaiah, I think if Craig Counsell gets canned by the Brew Crew, I think the Brewers should go with Buck Showalter as their manager, because I think Buck Showalter wants another chance at being a manager. I just don't see him going back to broadcasting, because I feel like he found a home in the dugout.
Yeah, I think he would be perfect for the Brew Crew. That's a team that has a lot of talent, and I don't think Buck Showalter, and Laurel, you probably will agree with me. I don't think Buck Showalter is gonna go back to managing a team that's losing right now, like the A's or the Angels or any of those losing teams. It has to be a team that is in contention to try to win a World Series, and I think that he would be perfect for the Brew Crew if they went in a different direction from Craig Counsell.
I mean, absolutely. I mean, now we're going to talk about the San Francisco Giants. I mean, they fired Gabe Kapler after a sub 500 season or something like that, either finishing at 500 or below. The Giants were like, hey, time for a new voice. Which I think is something that Farhan decided, along with ownership of the Giants and all that. But it didn't really shock me with why the Giants missed Gabe Kapler, because Gabe Kapler just didn't even have energy. He was just a laid-back guy, always nice, but he was just there was just a point where the Giants enough is enough. So that's what I think here. So who I think should be the next manager for the Giants, I'm picking Joe Maddon, because I think that the Rays are probably not going to dismiss Kevin Cash or scapegoat him or any way, because I think ownership of the Rays really likes Kevin Cash, and they seem to be very patient with him. But the reason why I go with Joe Maddon is because Joe Maddon got scapegoated in Anaheim, and I feel like that Joe Maddon could make the Giants more relevant. Isaiah, I mean, what was your thoughts on the Giants dismissing Gabe Kapler, and who do you think should be their next manager?
Laurel, I'm not surprised like you, because it started, I would say, a couple days before Kapler got fired, when Farhan Zaidi went on a radio show here on KNBR, the local sports radio station here in the Bay Area. And when he was asked point blank, is Gabe Kapler going to be back next season as the manager of the San Francisco Giants? He said he didn't even answer the question. He sidestepped the question and he said, we have to look at everything. It's been a bad year. You know, we're going to reevaluate everything in the organization. And normally, if a guy's coming back, and if the GM is asked, is he coming back? Then his answer is always yes. Yes. That's the answer. But Zaidi did not say that Kapler was coming back, and in fact, he even I think kind of tossed Gabe Kapler under the bus. He even said, like, when he was asked about what went wrong, he said, you know, maybe we weren't as prepared as we were going into the final or the big series of the season against the Arizona Diamondbacks a couple of weeks ago. And that's very telling because you don't say that about your team because you're referring to your manager about that. So those comments happened, and when those comments happened, I thought to myself that there's no way that Gabe Kapler will return as the manager of the San Francisco Giants because it looks like Farhan is not behind him anymore. It looks like that ownership is not behind him anymore. And also what was very telling, Loro, is that the players were bashing Kapler to the media. I mean, they didn't like directly bash Kapler, but they were saying stuff like Logan Webb said, oh, we need to make significant changes. Mike Yastrzemski was talking about how the clubhouse wasn't really prepared, how the clubhouse was too loose. Like, that was all shots at the manager. And when you combine those with Farhan's comments and then, during that couple weeks, you had the Giants beat writers who are very plugged into the organization, posting newspaper columns or tweets saying that Gabe Kapler must be gone. Like, you don't get that from them just speculating. I mean, they're speculating because something is going on and someone is telling them from within the organization. I thought Gabe Kapler was going to be done no matter what at the end of the season, and it would have been a shock for Gabe Kapler to come back. So I'm not really surprised at all. I think that the Giants needed a scapegoat because I thought they weren't going to fire Farhan. So the easiest scapegoat was to give Kapler the boot, and that's what they did here. And so, not surprised whatsoever. Who should replace Gabe Kapler? I got two names for you, Loro. Joe Maddon, like you mentioned, I think Joe Maddon would be a great fit. Championship manager, has got a lot of experience. He is very good with analytics, having worked with them with the Rays and also in Chicago. And so Farhan Zaidi and him could definitely mix very well. But the other guy I got, and I think it would be a great fit, is Joe Girardi. Joe Girardi deserves another managerial shot. Joe Girardi, I think, would be perfect for the Giants. He is exactly what the Giants need. The Giants need a guy that's no nonsense, that's a guy that can discipline the players, that will not have a loose clubhouse, and also Girardi is very good with he works with analytics, but also he uses his gut. And that was the thing with Kapler, Loro, like you mentioned, was that he was kind of boring. But a lot of us called him the human robot because he was always just managed by the book, the analytics, and he wouldn't go based on his gut, and he rarely got thrown out of games, and he couldn't really motivate his players. So I think Joe Girardi would be a great fit. Girardi would be able to motivate guys. Girardi would be able to work with the analytics that the front office gives him and also manage with his gut. And also he would bring that championship experience to the Giants from his days with the Yankees and the Phillies as well. So I think Girardi and Maddon would be great choices for the Giants. And another one I'll throw in is Mark Kotsay. Mark Kotsay worked with Farhan Zaidi when they were both with the Oakland A's, and he's been a manager for a couple of years, learned a lot. I think he would be a good fit if he were to move across the bay to San Francisco.
You also talked about Kevin Cash if he gets scapegoated from Tampa. Do you think that's a possibility?
I do. I think that that is a possibility because, and Ben, good to see you, man. It's been a while since we did a show together. But back to Kevin Cash, I think that he definitely could be scapegoated because the Rays won 99 games, and in the 2 games against the Texas Rangers, you only muster up 1 run combined in the 2 games, despite you having Arosa Reina and all the guys that you had on your team, and also the starting pitching. That's embarrassing. And also, what was really embarrassing about that series, and we'll get to it later on in the show when we, we'll talk about the games and then make our picks for the rest of the playoffs, is the Braves were throwing the ball all over the field. I mean, I could not recognize those Tampa Bay Rays. They were just committing errors that you were just like, really? Like you're making that type of stupid boneheaded move like what Siri did overrunning the ball, and then when he finally gets the fly ball, he picks it up and then he airmails it into the dugout. Like that's some type of stuff that like a 99 loss team would do, not a 99 win team. So I think with the sloppy play and the embarrassment of getting bounced out in the first round, not being able to score any runs, despite the fact that they were overwhelming favorites in that series, I think that definitely could cost Kevin Cash's job, and he also could be a candidate for San Francisco's managerial vacancy because he's got the experience. He's been to a World Series. He has worked great with analytics. I think he would be a great fit for San Francisco as well.
Ben, welcome. Want to get your thoughts on Gabe Kapler being fired, and also who do you think should be the next manager of the San Francisco Giants?
Well, first of all, thank you guys for having me on as usual. Glad to be on as a three type team. Good to have baseball playoffs back in the swing of things. I texted Isaiah this when this happened because on my show last week we did a segment where we pretty much announced a lot of the guys that could be on the move, and one of the guys that I mentioned was Buck Showalter. Gabe Kapler wasn't on the list, but he was definitely somebody I was going to mention. Listen, the Giants specifically, I think, just need a full-on new change between the front office, between the managing. They should be a lot better, specifically in terms of where they've been. I mean, they pretty much are. Yes, they're in the NL West. Yes, they play a lot of really good teams in their division, but I think that Farhan really wants a change. I think specifically you can go kind of different routes here, and it really depends specifically in terms of if they keep Farhan or not. Because I think personally that the Giants kind of will go by, and if they want to go analytical, I know that Isaiah was mentioning Kevin Cash. That'd be really interesting. I just really don't know specifically in terms of who is next to be on the move. I think Craig Counsell is a name specifically that I think personally that the Brewers might walk for the Mets job because David Stearns is there and he's associated with the Brewers. So that could happen specifically. I know that, there's just a lot of interesting names specifically, I think, to watch personally. And I think really the rest of this playoffs, we'll kind of see if there's any, surprises that happen. I know that the Arizona Diamondbacks, right? Torey Lovullo was, I thought, a guy that could have been on the move for a while, and he's now has his team's the NLDS. So I don't know specifically in terms of where things go, but in terms of the overall fire, I think Gabe Kapler could probably find a job pretty quickly. And I think that, I think a place where maybe I wouldn't say a big environment, but just kind of an environment where a team where he could be ready to win. And I think he's probably the best bet for him. So I know that obviously that Aaron Boone is likely to already be back for next year. So, I think that it's really kind of hard to tell specifically yet, Laura, in terms of who's next, but I have some names specifically to kind of watch out for.
All right, next on our list here, guys, is that the Angels announced yesterday that they have fired Phil Nevin. I didn't even think that it was going to happen, but he was on a 1-year contract. So the Angels are looking for a new manager. And I think if I were a managerial candidate that wants to talk to the Angels, I would not accept this job just because the organization's a mess. I would not want to work for Artie Moreno just because Artie Moreno is a terrible owner that put the Angels on bankrupt. And I think that whoever gets that job, they're gonna probably have a losing record if you're working for the Angels. Isaiah, what are your thoughts on Phil Nevin getting fired? And I'm telling you, this is probably not an attractive job for a manager.
This is the worst job out of all the jobs that are available right now because, like you mentioned, Loro, you might not have Otani after this offseason. He's most likely gone. Mike Trout might be gone too because there's been talks that he could get traded. The Angels are open to listening to trade offers for Mike Trout. Mike Trout might demand a trade. So your top 2 superstars could be out after this offseason. Perry Minasian, the GM, has 1 year left on his contract, so there may be a new GM after next season that comes in. And working for Artie Moreno is extremely, extremely tough. Artie's very hands-on, so he might overrule the GM and make a decision that he wants. There's just so many things that just makes this job not attractive, and the Angels have just been so toxic the last few years. And looking at the whole situation with the Angels, first about Nevin, I'm not surprised he got fired. He was on a 1 year deal. There was no way they were going to bring him back. Perry Minasian wanted his own guy. Phil Nevin was not his guy. They just temporarily did that last year because they thought that Artie Moreno was going to sell the team, and then the owner would want a new manager. So that's why they put in Phil Nevin as that 1 year placeholder, but I didn't think he was going to be the guy moving forward. I thought that he was going to be out after this year if the Angels didn't make it to the playoffs. And they ended up finishing with like 87 losses, I think it was, or 89 losses. So they basically had the same record as they had last season. So not really surprised he got fired. But like I said, I don't know who's gonna want to take this Angels job. Maybe Joe Girardi or not Joe Madden, but Joe Girardi or some manager that has been sitting on the sidelines for a long time could take this job because this is probably like the only managerial gig that they would get. But if you're a candidate that is from the Rays, like a bench coach or from one of these top organizations, why would you want to even take the Angels knowing that you might get fired in a year because Perry Minasian has 1 year left, and if the Angels don't make the playoffs, he most likely will get fired, and then the new GM that comes in will want his own guy, and then it's just going to be a huge mess. So I think that for the Angels, they're most likely looking at some of these candidates that are either washed up or haven't managed in a while, that are just desperately looking to just get back to being a manager, or maybe get like a young bench coach that his only gig or only opportunity to manage will be this opportunity, like a Kai Correa of the Giants. Gabe Kapler, Ben, like you mentioned, I could see him being the Angels manager just because I don't know who's going to give him another shot since he's already failed twice with the loss with the first with the Phillies and then with the Giants. So I could see him being the Angels manager, and also because Perry Minasian loves analytics and Gabe Kapler is an analytics guy. So I could see him being there. But Joe Girardi, Gabe Kapler are the guys that I think could be the candidates for the Angels manager. Maybe Darren Bush, the bench coach from the A's. He's got ties to Perry Minasian, but that's really about it. I don't really see anybody else that I think could be in the running for the Angels managerial opening.
Ben, I'll ask you, what are your thoughts on Phil Nevin getting booted out of Anaheim?
Sorry, I was on mute. was something that was not surprising. The Angels are a team that have pretty much been a up and down roller coaster for year after year. And uh, for them specifically, he was only going to be like a short term type of fit. I think Buck Showalter could be a really interesting fit. Now, the Angels, I think, interviewed him in their 2019 search, so he could be really fascinating. I know that they have some maybe internal bench coach idea openings. The Angels do so. Maybe pretty much those can be just fill-ins at least for right now. Problem is with the Angels is two of their main stars could be both out the door. I think Shohei Ohtani is likely all but gone there. I think there's a potential with Mike Trout, but the problem is Mike Trout at this point in time in his career is very injury prone. And it's just a matter of terms of who wants to take that contract. I mean, he was arguably, and he still has best player of the world type of talent for sure. But it's unfortunately the injuries have really caught up to him. But regardless of the fact, I don't know how many managers that want to come in and be like, this is a destination of a job. We're going to take it, like Isaiah mentioned. So I think maybe a guy like Buck Showalter, if they want to kind of go that route. If not, maybe kind of someone younger, like a bench coach. That might be internal.
Well, Isaiah, Ben, my question for you guys is that with Ohtani, I mean, I don't have him going to the Mets or the Yankees. It's between, for me, the Giants, the Dodgers, and the Mariners. Isaiah, where I think Shohei Ohtani goes is Dodgers. Are you still on that stance?
I am. I think that Ohtani, he's going to be gone from Anaheim. The Giants, I don't think so anymore because they have so much turmoil and chaos there. The Dodgers, because I think he's going to want to stay on the West Coast. Don't rule out Boston because of his relationship with
I like
Yoshida.
it.
I could see it because he has a great friendship with Yoshida, and there's been talks that recently that Shohei might be interested in playing in a big market in like a Boston. And imagine if he goes to Boston, Loro and Ben, imagine with Shohei's power to right field and with that short wall in right field at Fenway Park, man, you think Shohei right now, he was on pace to hit 60 home runs with the Angels. With that AL East pitching not being really that good, with all the ballparks there being like very hitters friendly ballparks like Yankee Stadium, Camden Yards, and also with him playing half of his games at Fenway Park and with that short wall, you think Shohei hitting 60 this past year was like crazy? He could hit 80 with the Red Sox there at Fenway Park. I mean, that's just how crazy it is. So, Dodgers, I wouldn't rule out Boston. I would not rule out the Yankees just because they're a big market team. But I would still put Red Sox over Yankees because of Yoshida. And I think the other team is watch out for Texas because Texas was really interested in Shohei back when he was 18 years old and coming out of high school, and they scouted him a bunch of times, and Shohei met with the Rangers management a bunch of times, so there is a relationship there. And also Seattle, don't rule them out as well.
I think, Isaiah, I think Ohtani is going to be a Dodger, and you think Ohtani is going to be a Dodger, right?
I got him being a Dodger right now, but I'm just saying, like, those other teams that I mentioned, don't rule them out. I don't know if they're not the favorite, but I think the Dodgers are the favorite. But I think in terms of those other teams, I think that they could definitely have a shot at Shohei Ohtani.
Ben, I'll go. I mean, Mookie Betts has recruited Shohei Ohtani to be a Dodger during the Freeway Series last year. This past season. So do you see Shohei Ohtani wearing the Dodger blue?
I mean, it really depends specifically of what he wants. I mean, remember, he's not going to be able to pitch this upcoming season. I think that changes for a lot of teams' outlook on him. Yes, he is arguably the best player in the world, and you're not going to find a guy with the same caliber as Shohei Ohtani maybe ever again. but I think there are some teams that I would watch out for specifically for him that might have not been looking at him maybe before because you could be able to get all around talent for not maybe as much money as he wants, but in terms of what other teams might want and value him. So if you're looking at West Coast, I would say the front runners, yeah. I'll probably say the Dodgers. I'd say the Mariners. I would not. I mean, maybe the Padres, but I doubt the Padres because they're just in really deep money problems right now, especially with the Juan Soto situation there. So probably not the Padres, but I'll probably go with at least the Dodgers, Mariners, and Giants. Especially with the Giants kind of swinging out in the last couple guys, I wouldn't rule them out. Um, I mean, Isaiah, don't get me too excited with the Boston stuff. I know that there's been a lot of chatter with my Red Sox in terms of the Masataka Yoshida relationship. New era, New Balance is headquartered in Boston. It's one of their main headquarters, and Shohei Ohtani's one of his cleats is New Era. So that would be obviously something that would be really fascinating to him. And he's obviously spoke really highly about pitching at Fenway Park. So I think that would obviously bring a lot. And I think for the Red Sox specifically, it would bring arguably probably the biggest Boston star athlete since Tom Brady. I think personally that would really be, and I'm really not even joking specifically. I think if you brought him in specifically, I mean, Jason Tatum, I think, is the best Boston star athlete. If you brought Shohei Ohtani in to Boston, he would be the next big star. I mean, in terms of everybody specifically that might have tuned out on the Red Sox the last couple of years, they would essentially be like, hey, we're spending big. I mean, obviously, I would be a little bit worried about the contract, but I mean, heck, if he came, it would be amazing. But I just don't see it happening. But the other teams to watch out for, don't rule out the Braves. Antonopoulos is somebody that really plays around with his money, does a really good job there, and I mean, that would be the absolute gauntlet. You talk about the Braves already being an absolute machine. You put Shohei in that lineup, and you obviously have him in a pitch every other fifth day the next couple of years. I mean, that would be fucking scary. And then watch out the Orioles. I know that, obviously they're kind of in on him a little bit, maybe last year. I mean, they're a really fun team, a lot of young and up and coming talent. And obviously they need pitching. So that would be really fascinating too. But I'd probably say, if you had to give me like the top three places, and I would say the Mets. I still wouldn't rule out the Mets. I still think that Cohen's going to do what he can to either get Ohtani, Soto, or a big bat, I think, for that team, for sure. I would say the Dodgers is one. Oh man, I would say the Mets is two, and then I'll probably go with the Giants.
All right, next up, I mean, we got to talk about the legendary pitcher from the Boston Red Sox who invented the knuckleball. Tim Wakefield passed away at the age of 57 after a bout with brain cancer on Sunday. I mean, I know it hit Red Sox fans really, really hard. I mean, I liked him when I grew up watching baseball back when I was a kid because Tim Wakefield had the best knuckleball out there, and the way he threw that knuckleball, it had a good spin to it. I mean, him and his wife both having cancer is very, very unfortunate. But Ben, I mean, you watched Tim Wakefield in that Red Sox dynasty. I mean, he was part of that team where Big Papi, Manny Ramirez, Jason Varitek, that started the whole Red Sox dynasty, winning championships from 2004, 2007. I mean, Tim Wakefield was part of that core that helped bring championship baseball back to the Boston Red Sox, Ben. So, what was your thoughts on this? But I'll tell you, I mean, Tim Wakefield was a well-liked guy. I mean, he was a guy that knew how to pitch his knuckleball, and I know you'll miss seeing him pitch that knuckleball.
Yeah, this obviously really hit me hard. This was someone that I grew up loving a lot. When I was younger, I obviously got the chance to go see him pitch quite a bit. Seeing that knuckleball live was definitely something that not many other guys can really do pitch. It's a pitch essentially that it's really you're on your knuckles and you got to really throw it, and it's just for a lot of guys specifically, it's really hard to release the ball. And I do have to give a really quick shout out before I say a little bit more about Wakefield. Is I got to give a shout out to pitcher for the Mariners, George Kirby. And his start on Sunday, I think, or the day after, he pitched a knuckleball in the game where he actually struck out a batter, I think, for Texas, and he did it in remembrance of Tim Wakefield. So I give Kirby a lot of credit. That's a lot of class, and that was awesome to see. But yeah, no, Tim Wakefield was a Red Sox favorite, one of my favorites. I think personally for Fenway Park, they're probably going to do a day in remembrance for him. Shout out to the Phillies for doing the moment of silence. I think the Orioles did it when they played the Red Sox when it happened too this past weekend. So a lot of teams are kind of remembering him, not only Red Sox like myself, but really, really sad. And just wish the best for their family. Red Sox Nation. A lot of my friends that are Red Sox fans, and just the baseball community, because I think that a lot of Yankee fans were reaching out online, a lot of Dodger fans, Met fans, you name it. So, yeah, really sad for myself when I saw the news, especially when it was kind of a whirlwind of a day. I think it happened on a Sunday. So, a lot of good news and a lot of really unfortunate news. And when I saw my brother, he really hit it hard. My dad really hit it hard. So, yeah, it was really just tough news to hear. But I'm never going to forget the memories that he brought to the team. I'm gonna really just love his overall personality. He did a really good job in the TV business after he retired. He did a lot of Red Sox games broadcasting. So he really still was really a part of the community. And guys like David Ortiz, Dustin Pedroia, Manny Ramirez, a lot of really well-known Red Sox was really close with him, and he's somebody specifically that I will never forget. So that's really unfortunate to hear.
I mean, Ben, did this really hit you hard after knowing that Jerry Remy, who was a beloved color analyst for the Boston Red Sox, did that hit you hard, the Wakefield passing, or did the Jerry Remy passing hit you hard too?
I mean, they both did. They're both obviously really well known guys for the Red Sox. If you ask somebody in the streets of Boston, in terms of, if they're not a big Red Sox fan, but they might be a fan, you'd be like, hey, do you remember Tim Wakefield? They're like, oh, yeah, yeah. It's just the overall, not only just kind of what he brought to the actual baseball team, but just the overall community. And I think that it speaks volumes for a guy, not only just as a player, but as a person. And so, yeah, I mean, Jerry was somebody that was really awesome. I mean, every single time I even watched Don Orsillo doing the broadcasting, it just still brings a tear to my eye because, just kind of who we had with him for so long, doing it with him, and just kind of my overall childhood. It really was my childhood. Watching a lot of games when I was younger, being blessed to see really good Red Sox baseball. And yeah, Wakefield was one of my favorites to watch. For guys like Josh Beckett, John Lackey, John Lester. So yeah, I mean, it would really hit me hard for both of the guys for sure. And hopefully they'll do a service for him soon. I don't know if it's anything that's in person or not, but yeah, it really hit me hard for both of them.
And then you talk about Don Orsillo now, Ben. Are you enjoying him in San Diego? In that, are you just jealous of him now that he enjoys the great weather in Southern California and enjoying the San Diego weather?
I'm happy for him. I think that for the last couple of years, just to see him keep on doing the stuff that he loves to do. Obviously Xander going there was obviously awesome to see because, of course, Xander, when he was really younger as a Red Sox, Don Orsillo was still doing games for the Red Sox with him. And I know obviously he feels a little different, my feels, but I'm still really happy that he's doing the sport he loves doing. And, occasionally do a Red Sox game. If they're doing it on TBS, so sometimes we do it on a game on like Fox. So I still kind of have that little, little feel in terms of the past. So, but yeah, no, I'm really happy for him. And I know obviously that he posted something about Jerry a couple days ago about, in terms of couple months ago about his past, but of course Wakefield is really close with as well too. So yeah, I do. I'm really happy for him for sure.
Isaiah, I'll go to you. I mean, Tim Wakefield was a icon for the Boston Red Sox. What were your thoughts on his passing?
First of all, Ben, I'm sorry for you and Red Sox Nation's loss of Tim Wakefield. Just really, really sad. He was gone too soon. I mean, 57 years of age. He lived very, very short of a life. I watched Tim Wakefield pitch a lot when I was a little kid. It seemed like every time the Red Sox were on Sunday Night Baseball, it seemed like Tim Wakefield was the starting pitcher for those games that I watched
Yeah.
the Red Sox on Sunday Night Baseball. And it was always his knuckleball. It's always that knuckleball, that deceptive movement where hitters just could not lay off of it. And it was one of the hardest pitches to hit. I think him and R.A. Dickey with their knuckleballs, I mean, that's why they were both so successful, especially late into their careers, because the knuckleball, the thing with the knuckleball is that you don't throw it hard. You don't throw it like 98 to 100 miles an hour. You don't have to put a lot of stress on your arms. It's just very natural. And I think that's why they were both super successful. And it's also very unhittable. So it just sucks that, he's gone from us, gone way too soon. They definitely need to find a cure for cancer. It's killing so many people at such a young age, and just feel bad. Just feel really bad. One of the top pitchers, one of the most underrated pitchers in all of baseball, and a guy that very unhittable. And the thing I really liked about Tim Wakefield's career is that he reinvented himself. I mean, I don't know if you guys know this, but he actually wasn't really that good early in his career. But then he found how to throw the knuckleball, and then it completely changed his career. And, it ended up, getting him that Hall of Fame career that he ended up having. And Tim Wakefield was one of the guys on that '04 team that helped break the curse for the Boston Red Sox. He was also a great person, and that's also what's really, really sad about this. He had a really long career, and yeah, he's definitely going to be missed. And I honestly wish a lot more people would throw the knuckleball, because I think that that's one of the pitches that you don't put a lot of stress on your arms, and also it's very unhittable. So rest in peace to him. And, it sucks that he's gone from us.
And one more thing, Laura, before I go to is like in terms of the knuckleball too. Like I sometimes just play catch with my brother or like one of my friends, go to the field, and I'd obviously just kind of just throw the ball back and forth and maybe just do like different grips. And I always remember like I just joke around and throw the ball back and try to do the knuckleball. And every single time I try to put those fingers onto the ball and try to do the knuckleball, the first guy that came to my mind every single time was Tim Wakefield, because he was the guy that invented it. He was the guy that probably was the best at it that I've seen. And so I think that it's just somebody that we won't forget specifically. I know that I will never forget as a Red Sox fan myself. Of course, really hit me hard. Yeah, just Red Sox Nation, baseball fans, and the Red Sox and Boston community.
All right, next up here, guys, we're going to talk about our wild card recap before we get into our playoff pick segment here. I mean, let's start with Corbin Carroll and the 6th seed Arizona Diamondbacks going to Milwaukee to take down the Brewers 5-2 to keep the Brewers out of the playoffs and advance to the NLDS versus the Dodgers. I mean, I wanted Milwaukee to play the Dodgers, but you know what? West Coast is the best coast. I mean, the Dodgers will be playing a division matchup in the NLDS for a second year in a row. I mean, they are 1-0 against the Arizona Diamondbacks in the playoffs. I think that the Dodgers will find a way to beat Arizona. I think they'll beat them in 3. But I'm going to start with you, Isaiah. I mean, what was your thoughts on the Diamondbacks beating Milwaukee? And then they get to play the Dodgers. And the Dodgers always play the Diamondbacks really well and really tough.
My thoughts on this series is simple. Craig Counsell quit on the Brewers. It just looked like from the get-go that there was something off with the Milwaukee Brewers in-game decision. I mean, every decision that Craig Counsell made was the wrong decision, and some of the moves that he made just left you scratching your head. Like, what was this guy thinking? Like, there was one stat that was thrown out on Twitter. I think it was Jesse Winker. He was put in for someone else, and that other guy had a higher batting average and a higher OPS versus left-handers than Winker did, and Winker was put in against a lefty, and everybody was like, "What are you doing, Craig Counsell?" It just seemed like Craig Counsell's head just was not in that series whatsoever. It looked like he was just looking forward to New York or even somewhere else to begin his next managerial or next step in his managerial career. And I don't know. It just seemed like Arizona was always one step ahead of the Milwaukee Brewers. Like, yeah, the Brewers they would always punch, but then the Arizona Diamondbacks would counter punch a couple of times, and then the Brewers would be done, and the Brewers would try to come back, and then Arizona would be like 2 steps ahead of them. Like, it just seemed like the D-backs were just always ahead of the Milwaukee Brewers, and I don't know what Craig Counsell was thinking in this series a lot of the times. Evan Longoria, being the veteran that he was, I mean, he made some snazzy defensive plays at third base to save the game for the D-backs, especially yesterday. I mean, that diving catch, that definitely saved a couple of runs from scoring. But then today, I mean, it was Ketel Marte, that two-run single. That was the clutch hit right there. The Brewers are up 2-0. Or no, the Brewers are up, I believe, 2-1, and the D-backs are threatening, and then Ketel Marte comes up with a line drive base hit up the middle, 2-run score, and the D-backs all of a sudden were down 2-0, or they went from being down 2-0, not having any life, and they go from being down 2-0 to taking the lead, and that basically sucked the air out of the ballpark there in Milwaukee. So just a lot of clutch hits by the D-backs from Marte, Tommy Pham had a clutch hit. Great plays on defense by Evan Longoria and Gurriel. Gabriel Moreno yesterday with a clutch homer. Just a lot of good clutch hits and just timely defensive plays by the D-backs. And their pitching, Gallen wasn't really that strong tonight. I mean, he pitched 6 innings, gave up 2 runs on 5 hits. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say. I mean, I'll kind of say my piece afterward, but I definitely do agree.
Yeah, so Gallen wasn't that strong, but it was the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen for the D-backs, Ryan Thompson, Ginkgo, Saul Frank, and Seawolf, nothing. Just put up 0, 0, zeros. And, the bullpen for the D-backs just shut it down when Milwaukee was trying to come back late. And Saul Frank got out of a massive jam in that 8th inning when Milwaukee had bases loaded, I believe, with nobody out, gets one of them to pop out to the pitcher, and then a fly ball out to, I believe, left center field. So just clutch by the D-backs bullpen, and also clutch plays on both offense and defense just helped propel them to the NLDS. And it's going to be a fun NLDS between the Dodgers and D-backs. I know the Dodgers, they have the advantage because they're at home, and they played the D-backs a lot of times. But the thing with the division teams playing each other is that there's a lot of familiarity, and we saw that last year with the Dodgers and D-back, or the Dodgers and Padres playing each other in the playoffs. The Padres ended up winning that series, but there's a lot of unexpectedness that's always going to happen because these teams just know each other very, very good. And I wouldn't count out the D-backs in this series, but I think the Dodgers are still the favorite. But as far as Milwaukee, it's going to be a long winter ahead because Craig Counsell now most likely will be leaving Milwaukee in the coming days.
What was your thoughts, Ben, on that series? I mean, Arizona was very pesky. I mean, this is a team that is really, really good for a young team that no one thought that they would be in this position right now.
I think this is the most underrated team in the rest of the Major League Baseball playoffs. I think when you look at this overall series, and I was just looking at this when Isaiah was talking, the Brewers got 3 runs in the first 2 innings in the first game, and they got 2 runs in the first inning tonight, and that was it. The Diamondbacks, specifically their pitching staff, was able to hold the Milwaukee bats for both games in the series. Pretty much after when it was kind of an early Little rampage or a little. I know that you said Gallon didn't pitch great, Isaiah. I kind of respectfully disagree specifically because he was able to get out of a jam which could have gone a lot worse, and he got them to at least 6 strong innings. I thought personally tonight, and then the bullpen. I mean, the bullpen the last 2 nights was fantastic. I mean, Joe Mantiply, their lefty, Ginkle, and the Mariners trading Paul Sewell. I have no idea why they did that. I mean, he's a perfect guy for their bullpen, and I think that the D-backs really struggle with finding a closer, and he was a guy, and he really came in the last 2 games, especially tonight when the Brewers were, 2 guys on, 2 outs in the ninth inning, hostile environment, fans are up, and he just shut that down with the big strikeout on Williams Contreras. So yeah, I just gotta say that the D-backs, I think, are going to give the Dodgers a series. Remember, like you said, Isaiah, Padres be able to beat the Dodgers last year. The Phillies beat the Braves last year. I don't think a lot of people expected that to happen. So crazy things have happened. I do think the Dodgers are the favorite. Obviously, we'll pick in terms of our picks and stuff like that. But yeah, the D-backs have a really fun team. Corbin Carroll is going to be a budding superstar for years to come. Christian Walker's a pretty good hitter, really good power hitter. Ketel Marte is a pretty good shortstop, a guy that I don't think a lot of people talk about. And then they just have guys that, they just go up and make contact. And the D-backs were able to get guys in from runners in scoring position, and the Brewers didn't. Brewers had a lot of chances tonight, and they didn't cash in. I wasn't a big fan of the Brewers lineup in the postseason. They have Yelich, they have shortstop Adames. Sorry, I was really trying to figure it out. They brought Donaldson, but he doesn't really have much left. They just really didn't have that big, guy, like a big power bat in the middle of the order. I know Yelich, of course, is probably the best hitter, but when the playoffs come around and you face a really good pitch in the playoffs, obviously, you guys you got to be able to have guys that be able to cash in runs, at least in the middle of the order. I just didn't think the Brewers had a lot of that in the series specifically, and it really showed. In terms of the Brewers' future, I think Craig Counsell's gone. I think that the Mets are going to get him. And I also want to roll out the Brewers have been talking a lot with Corbin Burns in terms of maybe between him or Woodruff might be on the move this offseason, as crazy as it sounds, because they don't really have many more years left, I don't think, on their contracts. So I think that there could be some moves in Brewer land. I mean, heck, Christian Yelich, who knows if he's going to be, there for the long term. So they obviously have a lot to look forward to, but I think it's going to be a long offseason for the Brewers. And then if you look at the D-backs, I think that they have a really good shot to play against the Dodgers and maybe pull off the upset.
We'll have to see about that, but next game we'll talk about here is that Nathan Eovaldi dominates on the mound with 6 in the 2/3 innings, giving up just 1, and timely homers. Adolis Garcia and rookie sensation Evan Carter. The Rangers go into the Trop and win Game 2, 7-1 to sweep the Rays in this wild card series. Isaiah, you are a big believer in the Texas Rangers. Bruce Bochy deserves a lot of credit for the Rangers turnaround because who called for Bruce Bochy to be the Rangers manager? It was Isaiah. Who wanted Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer to be a Ranger? It was you, Isaiah, because this was your call on the Rangers, because knowing that you did not like Chris Woodward managing the team, but also dismissing John Daniels was still a mistake by the Rangers. So what was your thoughts on the Rangers Game 2 win over Tampa? And this team is for real again.
Fellas, I'm gonna say this about this Rangers team. This Rangers team reminds me of the 2022 Philadelphia Phillies. I think that this team is getting hot at the right time, and I was shocked. And Loro and Ben, I don't know if you guys felt this way going into this series, but I thought after the Rangers choked away the AL West in embarrassing fashion the way they did, when they should have won the AL West. They had a magic number of 1. They just needed to get 1 win in that or that 1 win or 2 wins in that series against the Mariners, and they got shut out on the final day. I thought the Rangers would come in defeated. I thought
Didn't we do a show that night and you were watching it with James, and they lost that game. Weren't you feeling it that? Yeah,
I
they
was.
literally. Yeah, I remember that.
I was. I remember like after they choked it, after Chapman gave it up, I was like, oh god, they're gonna choke it away. Forget winning the division. I thought they were gonna choke away the entire postseason berth, but luckily they won that game on Saturday. But I thought the Rangers would come and defeat it. But I mean, credit to them. I think the announcers today had a little story of Chris Young, the GM, saying when the Rangers went on that 8-game losing streak, Chris Young asked Bruce Bochy jokingly, do you still do you regret coming to Texas? And I know it was a joke, but Bruce Bochy could have gone anywhere. I mean, but he chose the Texas Rangers, and the ups and the downs that this team has had, the winning streaks, the losing streaks, the embarrassing choke in the end of the season, the fact that they don't panic, and the fact that they don't really get too high or too low. It's a credit to Bruce Bochy. And the Rangers, I thought they were going to lose this series, to be honest, because I thought that Texas, they were going to come and defeated. A lot of these teams, they come and defeated, and they're like, oh, we just choked away the division. Like, why should we even try now? They always end up losing. And, credit to Texas for not coming in defeated. And, what a series. I'll go into the Rangers first before the Rays. But first off, Corey Seager should be the AL MVP. It should not be Shohei Ohtani, because Shohei missed a lot of games down the stretch. I know Seager, he missed games too, but Seager played well down the stretch. And what happens down the stretch is what makes these awards and what really defines these players. And Seager put up big numbers this season. I think he batted .333 with 28 home runs, and I believe he had 100 plus RBIs, but he was unstoppable in this series. I mean, the Rays just could not figure him out whatsoever. He was great both offensively and defensively. He definitely deserves the AL MVP award. Evan Carter, man. I mean, I can't talk about this kid enough, but Ben and Laurel, this kid reminds me of Juan Soto when Juan Soto first broke out in that postseason back in 2019. I mean, this kid, he's only 21 years of age. He's so skinny, and this kid is hitting home runs like Barry Bonds out there. He's playing outstanding defense in left field. And what's really, really crazy about this kid, and I talked to James Gonzalez, our guy off the air today on the phone about him, is that he's 21 years of age, and he's taking these tough pitches for balls. He's not swinging and just swinging wildly at every pitch. He has the plate discipline of a guy who's been in the majors for 10, 15 years. I mean, it's crazy what this kid is doing, and he's only been in the big leagues for 2 to 3 or 2 months thus far, and what he's doing is absolutely incredible. I think in this series he went he had 7 plate appearances. He went 5 for 7. I mean, he went 5 for 7 he went 4 for 7 in this series with 2 walks in this series. I mean, just absolutely crazy. He was just on base all the time. This kid has a bright future ahead, and he's definitely going to be a superstar. And for the Rangers, it really came down to the Texas Rangers having, like we talked about with Arizona, timely hitting and great pitching. Nathan Eovaldi dominated today. I mean, I did not expect that whatsoever from him, because in his 3 starts since coming off the injured list, he's just been getting rocked every time. And for him to go out there, throw 6 2/3 of shutout baseball, huge for the Rangers. He was just dominant. He looked like the Nathan Eovaldi of old. And then Jordan Montgomery. I mean, one of his first postseason starts of his career. This dude goes into the Trop, one of the toughest places to play in the postseason, and he pitches 7 shutout innings. And he could have gone 8, because he left with only 88 pitches thrown or 90 pitches thrown. But I mean, it was just crazy. Montgomery dominated. Eovaldi was great today. The bullpen actually was fantastic with Leclerc and Chapman yesterday, and then today with Leclerc and I believe Andrew Heaney was. Or no, it wasn't Heaney. It was Leclerc and somebody else. But that great pitching by the Rangers starters, and then the timely hits. I mean, yesterday it was the Rays just doing just stupid stuff. I'll get to that in a bit. But Adolis Garcia, clutch homer. Evan Carter yesterday and today, clutch homer and clutch doubles. Josh Young with a clutch sack fly. Josh Young had a 3-hit game today. It was just clutch hits, great pitching, and great bullpen by the Rangers. And it reminds me of how Bruce Bochy's teams won in San Francisco. Shut down starting pitching, clutch hits, timely hits, and clutch bullpen. And that's the recipe that they're using in Texas. And they definitely look like a team that could get very far this postseason. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, Ben and Laurel, I did not recognize these Rays. I really didn't. I mean, they were making mistakes that you just never see from the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, they were throwing the ball all over the place. They had 6 errors in 2 games and 5 errors yesterday in game 1 at home. It was just an embarrassing game by the Rays. The outfielder Siri misjudged a fly ball to center field. He completely boots it. And then, after he gets it off the wall, he airmails the throw. And he airmails the throw. And I'm like, what? Dude, is this Little League Baseball out here? Like, what's going on? Like, he just airmails it into the dugout. And it was just so sloppy from the Rays, both today and yesterday. The offense didn't show up. The starting pitching was definitely missing McClanahan and others on that starting pitching staff. But honestly, this is on Kevin Cash, because it just looked like the Rays were still somehow somewhat hung over from their AL East or their AL playoff berth celebration. And it looked like the Tampa Bay Rays were just drinking a whole bunch of alcohol the night before with their play on the baseball field. I mean, they were just making so many bad mistakes. They didn't look prepared. The offense looked out of sort, and there's a lot of questions in Tampa Bay moving forward, because there's a lot of injuries now. Guys might not be back next season, and who knows if Kevin Cash will be back, because I mean, if you're ownership, you should be disgusted after watching what you watched in this series, and especially with the sloppy play. Like, I understand if the offense doesn't show up, if the pitchers aren't like pitching great, fine, that's not on the manager. But making those stupid, boneheaded errors the way they did on the field, committing 6 errors in 2 playoff games, like, that's absolutely pathetic. And that's on the manager, and that's on the coaching staff as well for not coaching them up properly. So great win for the Rangers, and we'll talk about this series in a bit. But Rangers and Orioles is about to be an outstanding all-time series.
Ben, what is your thoughts on the Rangers in the game 2 of this Rangers race series? And your boy Nathan Eovaldi pitched a really good game today.
I gotta say this. It's simple. One team was playing winning baseball. One team was playing losing baseball. The team that was playing winning baseball is the Texas Rangers. They went into a hostile environment. Remember, the Tropicana Field is not a recipe for teams to go in there and do business like the Texas Rangers just did. They went in there and not only won, but they kicked Tampa's ass. Tampa's really good pitching, even without McClanahan. Glasnow has been awesome. Eflin's been really good this year. But the thing was that Texas had a good plan coming in. I don't think specifically that they really cared in terms of who they played. And Texas pretty much is, funny enough, after they play the Red Sox, kind of end part of their season in September, mid part of September, their offense started to come alive. I could really see it, because I know that beforehand they were really struggling. And I'm just like, if they could just click again, their offense could click again. They are a very deep lineup. And we saw it in this series, the last couple of days here. Evan Carter, like you mentioned, Isaiah, really young, budding type of star that we could be seeing in years to come. Josh Jung is a fantastic player. Corey Seager could be a MVP candidate. He's been great, obviously, in his Dodger days. Jonah Heim. Jonah Heim, remember, he was really good from the right-hand side at the plate, but he really struggled from the left-hand side the last couple of years. And now you get a switch-handed Jonah Heim behind the dish, which is a really big, dangerous part to that lineup. Nathaniel Lowe, Adolis Garcia. I mean, top to bottom, that team specifically just has guys that can make contact and just kind of move the line. That's what you really need. That's, I think, what Bruce Bochy is going to really encompass, especially now that they have to go against Baltimore coming up. So total ass kicking. Tampa only scored 1 run. I think the losses of Brandon Lau and Wander Franco really hurt the Tampa Bay Rays. Wander Franco was by far their best hitter. From left side and from the right side. Josh Lowe, I know obviously they didn't play a lot of him, which made really no sense. But he was really good. Isaac Paredes didn't really do much. Obviously, Randy Rosarina is probably their best hitter throughout the series, but it was really only him and not really all other guys. Texas really held them in check from between their defense, between Montgomery had a sliding catch, Carter had a sliding catch, between their offense, making timely hits, coming through even, Tampa, Gosnell had a bunch of pass balls that he was throwing around. Their defense wasn't good. They were playing in Tropicana Field, which I think personally me, it's like a circus. And the team looked like a circus out there. So, that's pretty much says all about the Rays. And I got to say this about the Rays, because obviously I see them a lot in my division. Their nerdy analytical ways do not work. They don't work in the playoffs. We've seen it now for the last couple years. People are like, "Oh, who do you got winning the division?" In the AL East, it could be Tampa, it could be Toronto, and yeah, sure they could do in the regular season, but when the time comes in playoff time, I don't trust that Rays team going deep. I just don't. I mean, I still remember in 2020 against the Dodgers, especially lower. If you remember Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell early, then you have the next couple years after that. Of course, you lose against the Guardians. Now you lose, of course, against Texas. They've not shown up the last couple of years when it's mattered most. And I think you got to really question, like you said, Isaiah, their head coach, their manager, Kevin Cash. It's just there's a lot I think to really look at, and I think that there's some young up and coming talent offensively, but man, I did not expect obviously that Tampa to just roll out like that. I really didn't, and got to give Texas a lot of credit. And I'll definitely be curious to see in terms of how Texas will play Baltimore, because that's essentially a playoff series that we really never seen ever before. So I think there's a lot of chaos, a lot of juice, and we'll see what happens.
Anyways, now we're going to go to Isaiah on this. I mean, Bryson Stott threw down the bat and helped propel the Phillies to a sweep over the Marlins with a monstrous grand slam. I mean, Isaiah, the Phillies, I mean, they started out really bad. You questioned Rob Thompson all year, but he's proven to me he's the right person in Philly. And you talk about Bryson Stott, who you are very high on, hitting that grand slam here. So, Isaiah, what are your thoughts on the Phillies? And they're playing the Braves again in the National League Division Series.
How about those Phillies, boys? How about those Phillies? I mean, absolutely pandemonium in Philadelphia tonight or the last 2 nights. I mean, first off, postseason baseball, and I know Ben texted me this earlier before the show. Postseason baseball in Philadelphia is absolutely unmatched when it comes to playoff environment. I mean, maybe New York and Boston has something to say about that, but in terms of the environment, the electricity, I mean, it's crazy how great postseason baseball is at Citizens Bank Park. But I think in terms of about tonight, the Phillies, they were rolling. They just had this series under control. The Miami Marlins honestly looked scared. They looked scared. They did not look ready for the moment, and they didn't look they did not look ready for the playoff environment that was Philadelphia. A couple of years ago when they made the playoffs back in 2020, there was no fans, so there wasn't that hostile environment. So the Marlins won because there wasn't that hostile environment. But now, yeah, go ahead, Ben.
No, I said that's right. I mean, I remember the last time into the playoffs, there's like no fans.
Yes, there was no fans, so there wasn't any hostile environment so they could play their game. But it started from the first pitch yesterday. The Marlins just looked rattled. Luzardo looked rattled. Luzardo, he was with my A's back in, I believe, 2019, 2020, and he pitched in our postseason game against the White Sox, game 1. And I remember he absolutely got shelled against the White Sox. He pitched only like 3 innings, gave up like 6 runs, only struck out like 2 batters. He just doesn't look like a guy that is ready to pitch in the postseason, and also looks like a guy that is not ready to pitch when the big lights are on. And Philadelphia just had a stranglehold on that series from the first pitch on. I know Alec Boehm, he was very good. He had a RBI double to break the score open yesterday. And then Schwarber, a couple clutch doubles. Trey Turner with a base hit. But that Bryson Stott homer, like that reminded me of Brandon Crawford's grand slam against the Pirates in that wild card game in 2016 or 2014, I believe. Or that reminded me of Shane Victorino's grand slam against the Brewers at Citizens Bank Park back in 2008. I mean, that ballpark just absolutely erupted. It was just pandemonium after that. And credit to the Phillies pitching. I mean, Nola dominated tonight. He's been kind of like spotty all season long. Walker has not really been himself this season. He dominated last night. The bullpen was great. The offense, man, just great at bats after great at bats after great at bats, long at bats, and just making the Marlins work. And ultimately, the Phillies ended up besting the Marlins, and they're going to be tough for the Braves because it's like we talked about with the Dodgers D-back series. These division rivals, they always have a lot of familiarity with each other. And when you look at this Phillies Braves series, I think that we could be in for like a great treat of a series. And I think this could go 5 games because these two teams know each other very well. Both teams are extremely dominant. And don't be shocked if Atlanta gets bounced. Remember, they got bounced last year. And yeah, they're a better team, obviously. But the Phillies have a great lineup. The Braves got a great lineup. Both teams have great pitching staffs. It's going to come down to the manager. And I think that, with Brian Schneider versus Rob Thompson, I'm kind of afraid Rob Thompson's going to do something to butcher it at the end because he nearly, there was a couple moments that he kind of almost blew the games against the Marlins. But, great win by the Phillies. The Marlins, they definitely did not look ready. And but credit to the Marlins, though. Nobody even expected them to even come close to making the playoffs, and they made the playoffs with Kim Ng, their GM, transforming their team. Luis Arraez was terrific, even though he didn't have that great of a series in this wild card series. But the Phillies ultimately were the more experienced team. They were the better team, and they just played like it, and that's why they're heading to the NLDS.
What are your thoughts, man, on the Phillies and Marlins series? I mean, there wasn't even a contest here.
Yeah, it looked like a team that has a lot of postseason experience as of late to a team that was just not there, and they're just not ready yet for that next stage. But let's start with the Marlins. They have a lot of young pitching. Obviously, what was missing was Sandy Alcantara. I mean, he's probably by far their best pitcher. He was hurt, so of course that really took a massive toll on them. Edward Cabrera, I thought maybe he was going to pitch possibly in this series. He has really good stuff, and he never pitched. So you had Jesus Luzardo and you had Braxton Garrett, and essentially those are kind of your back end pitchers against the front line 1-2 for the Phillies, which are very good, and Zach Wheeler and Aaron Nola. So I just looked at it in terms of matchup standpoint. I just really thought it was in Philly. The fans are really going to come out blazing. And those fans give me 2021 Red Sox ALCS vibes against the Astros. I mean, every pitch, because I know there was some environment. I mean, Brewers fans were okay in that overall series. Tampa Bay, my good. Well, we'll talk about that another time in terms of half their fans show. I get it. It's during the week. It's afternoon games. I get it, but we'll talk about that another time. But the Philly fans specifically, and I think I maybe said that off the air, probably the best environment, at least in the wild card. I mean, they were absolutely every pitch. I was just jumping out of my seat in terms of what's going to happen next. And I saw that Bryson Stott home run from Vinny Engels on social media, and it just gives me chills. It's like that's what October baseball means to me. Even if my team's not even in it, just nothing beats it. And I'm just ready for that Bryce Harper home run at some point down the road in October with those fans. I mean, my goodness sakes. But I just really think that this Phillies team is red. They call it Red October in Philly for a reason. They're a team that the fighting Phils, they're not going to go down without a fight. They already beat this Braves team last year. I do think the Braves team this year is going to be a little bit better than their team from last year. And Max Fried, I think, pitched in their interleague split squad scrimmage today or the day before. So I think that's massive news for the Braves. But yeah, I just think that there was one team that was just a little bit outer class than the other team. I think Miami, they're going to be getting there soon in terms of their overall. They got some weapons there. They got some players. But the Phillies, I just think, has the postseason experience. And that was not even without Rhys Hoskins. Rhys Hoskins is a very good postseason hitter, like we saw from last year. Of course, that massive homer he had against Spencer Strider. So obviously, even without him, they obviously have Schwarber, Turner, Trey Turner, obviously with the curtain call has been absolutely, but Barry Bonds after. It's been incredible to watch. Obviously, you have Harper, you have Alec Bohm, Bryson Stott, and Christian Pache, your old friend Isaiah. He got a chance to play quite a bit for the former A in this series, and Rojas as well, too. So the Phillies just have a really good balance of a really good lineup with really big-time stars, a couple of guys that just are really good postseason caliber players, and then some really young kids that really can make some noise too. So that's going to be probably the best series NLDS in terms of the division series, probably the best series out of all coming up. I'm really excited for this one. It could really go back and forth. I just think with the Marlins, their time will be coming for sure. I mean, Luis Arraez could definitely probably go win the batting title for sure. I mean, he was batting around 400 for a lot of the season. That's really hard to do. So, a guy like Jorge Soler could be on the market. That would be, of course, a guy I would love for the Red Sox maybe to take a look at, especially if Verdugo got traded. But, I think their time will come for sure. But the Phillies are just in another level right now.
Anyways, now we're going to go to the Minnesota Twins. I mean, they clinched their first playoff series since 2002 with a clutch hit, homers from Carlos Correa and Royce Lewis, shutdown pitching. I mean, the Twins had playoff droughts because they couldn't even pitch. But when they got Pablo Lopez, it really, really boosted their rotation. And also, the Twins are a team where I think they're for real after this. Isaiah, what were your thoughts on the Twins' first playoff series win since 2002?
First off, congratulations to Stephen Wang. I know he's a big Twins fan. The Twins winning their first playoff game yesterday for the first time in 18 tries. And then today winning their first playoff series in 21 years. I mean, it's just crazy how long droughts that the Minnesota Twins have had when it comes to the postseason. So congratulations to the Twins. I mean, the Twins look for real. They look really good. They're pitching both yesterday and today, just outstanding. Sonny Gray today, outstanding. Yesterday, just outstanding pitching. But I think this series was more of bad Blue Jays than it was great Twins. I mean, the Blue Jays shot themselves in the foot so many times in this series, whether it was bad base running, Bo Bichette getting thrown out at home, running past third, getting thrown out on a great play by Carlos Correa. And then today, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., bro, he tried to act like he was like D. Gordon or he was like one of the best base stealers in all of baseball. And this dude is wandering off second base. He's like 15 feet away from second base. And Sonny Gray sees him from the back of his eyes and he just throws to second and he gets the out. Like, what are you even doing, dude? You're not fast. You're not a fast, speedy runner. You're not D. Gordon. You're not Ricky Henderson. You're not any of these fast, speedy runners. In fact, you are probably one of the slowest runners in all of baseball. You're a slugger, and at that situation, you cannot get thrown off second base. You just cannot. That just killed any momentum that the Toronto Blue Jays occurred in that inning. And I don't think it ended the inning, but it just killed any momentum that they had, and that basically gave the Minnesota Twins the game right there, and the series victory was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting thrown off second base, but from bad fielding, bad base running, not hitting, swinging at every pitch that they saw, it was just a lot of bad stuff from the Blue Jays all around in this series. And Loro and Ben, you guys might agree with me, but I think today we saw one of the worst managerial decisions in all of postseason baseball.
Oh, it was so bad.
That was, you guys know what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Pulling Barrios.
Yep. John Schneider. John Schneider lifting Barrios after 47 pitches. I mean, it was absolutely atrocious. I mean, bro, Jose Barrios, let me tell you guys right now, this dude, he wasn't pitching great, but he was good. He was doing good in this game. You paid him a lot of money, and he had only given up like one run at that point. And yeah, there were runners on base, but after 47 pitches, you're gonna pull a guy that you paid big money to, has been one of your best pitchers all season long, and you're gonna pull him right then for what? Just to go to the bullpen and have them blow it, which they did with Kikuchi giving up the run, and then that was about it. I mean, that, like, if I was the Blue Jays, I would have walked off the field after that horrific decision by John Schneider. Like, come on, dude, this is postseason baseball. I don't care what your analytics say. You paid this guy a lot of money. He's got one of the best stuffs on your team, and you go out there and pull him after 47 pitches. And so it was just utterly ridiculous. And, you know, Ben, you talked about analytics not working in the playoffs. Analytics is killing the game. I mean, the Blue Jays got eliminated in part because they over-relied on analytics. Pulling Barrios there in that situation, that was an analytics move. That wasn't a John Schneider move. That was a move from upstairs, and you got to pull him, and that just backfired on them so badly. And I'm glad it backfired, because you don't do that in the playoffs. You could do that in the regular season, I don't care, but in the playoffs, you got to put your best pitchers and your best hitters out there on the field, and the Blue Jays didn't. They just took them off when it mattered the most, and that's why they're going home. And I honestly would not be shocked if John Schneider gets let go in the next couple days, because this is not his only rodeo when it comes to choking postseason games. Remember, last year the Blue Jays had, I think, a 6-0 lead in Game 2 against the Mariners at home, and they lost 8-6. They ended up blowing that game. They gave up, I believe, 7 straight runs, and they blew that game in unprecedented fashion. So just embarrassing by Toronto all series long, and John Schneider needs to go, because this dude is costing the Blue Jays games. He has shown that he just melts down in the postseason. And honestly, if I'm the Blue Jays, I got to seriously think about my front office, because it just seems like they're just over-reliant on analytics. And this Blue Jays team with Chapman, with Guerrero, with Bichette, with Kevin Gosling, Gucci, and all you just do literally is just flame out, not even win a game in the division or in the wild card round back-to-back years in a row. Like, there's got to be some sweeping changes that happen in Toronto.
You're absolutely. What was your thoughts, Ben, on this?
Yeah, I just got to congratulate Steven on the Twins. You know, they finally got the monkey off their back. It's almost like the Yankees, who were kind of their pest for so long, for them to not be in it, maybe it just helped them out, because it sure like it did. And they actually did a favor and beat one of the teams in the AL East. So the Yankee fans are saying, yeah, thank you, Twins. Even though you guys will, of course, win this one, you know, this series, of course, we'll thank you in terms of your services. And then I personally also thank the Twins too, because the 2 AL East teams are now, think about it, they won 0 games just like the Red Sox did. The Yankees, the Reds, every AL East team that we call the AL Beast for pretty much all season is all out on the couch with us, besides the Baltimore Orioles. If you asked me before the season if that was the case, the second series, I don't think many of us would have believed you. So I think that's baseball for you. And I gotta say that the Twins, and a lot of this really in the wild card, you gotta have 1 and 2 really good pitchers. And I think you have to have innings, and you just have to have Pablo Lopez, Sonny Gray, 2 really good pitchers. You put them on the diamond and say, listen, guys, we're gonna go and fight. And I gotta say this specifically. I wasn't the biggest Rocco Baldelli guy for a couple years, but I give him his flowers. I think personally that he did a really good job managing this series. Their bullpen did a really good job. I mean, Johan Duran is absolutely disgusted. This guy is throwing 102 miles an hour, and then he's throwing like this 90-mile-an-hour splinter. It's like a sinker and a splitter together, and it just essentially, I don't even know how batters essentially could just take a look and try to not swing at it. I mean, it's just absolutely insane. I mean, the overlay, like, on social media in terms of just his straight fastball and that splinker, it's like a bend. It's insane. So you had him, you had Griffin Jacks, you had Caleb Thielbar. I mean, a lot of guys in the back end were doing great, and it was just kind of common theme in the wild card series. A lot of good pitching. I mean, the Twins offense, I think, really has to be able to score a little bit more in this Astro series for sure, because the Astros definitely can mash. Um, yeah, the Blue Jays offense was just MIA, and their base running was obviously inexcusable. Vladdy getting picked off. Remember, they had second and third with 2 outs. You gotta be smarter than that, man. Especially if you're a star player. You gotta be a lot smarter than that. And the Twins really capitalized after that because they were had a hard time stringing guys on base together, and it just almost took like it just pulling teeth out to try to get the Blues in terms of getting them in terms of a rhythm or anything. Matt Chapman grounded into a key double play in this game today. Bases loaded with 1 out. I'm sorry, Isaiah. A lot of people in Toronto are losing their patience on Chapman. He's a free agent, so who knows in terms of where Chapman goes after this season. I think he's going to be a guy that could be on the move. But yeah, the Blue Jays, I mean, they're kind of like the Rays in terms of maybe they rely too much on analytics because they've been bounced the last couple of years. It just hasn't been this year. So, yeah, I mean, John Schneider pulling Barrios out early on when he was actually not even pitching that bad was very questionable. But I give the Twins their flowers. I really do. I mean, I don't think it's smart for them to chant that we want Houston. I think that Yankee fans really learned their lesson the hard way. But I will obviously, give them credit where credit's due. But now you're going into the Lions then. Now, really, this is where you essentially can show your true colors, especially for a Twins team that really hasn't really felt this type of postseason type of feel before, especially after going through one series, then getting eliminated right away. So it'll be really fascinating. It'll be really fascinating in terms of how much they can really put up a fight against a team in the American League that really just is unstoppable come October time. So,
Anyways, now we're going to go to our picks here. So now we're going to go to our playoff pick segment. We're going to start with the NLDS. D-backs, Dodgers, Phillies, Braves. You know where I'm going with this. For the D-backs, Dodgers NLDS series, I'm going to pick the Dodgers in a sweep over the Diamondbacks because I think the Diamondbacks don't normally play well in division series environments, and the Dodgers will repeat 2017 again, and they'll sweep Arizona. And as for the Phillies and Braves series, I mean, Philly, the Braves last year, but I'm going to go with the Braves in 5 because the Phillies are going to give the Phillies are going to give the Braves a series, but I'm going to say Braves in 5 just because I think they're the better overall team than Philadelphia, and I really think that the Braves pitching is going to show up. I think they're going to quiet Bryce Harper and Trey Turner, and if they can quiet those guys, then I think the Braves will beat the Phillies in a series. So, Isaiah, I'll go to you. Who do you like in the D-backs, Dodgers, Phillies, Braves? Because in my NLCS, I have the Braves and the Dodgers playing in the NLCS.
So in the Dodgers D-back series, I actually think it's going to be a more competitive series than you think, Laurel. I think it's going to be a 5-game series. I think the D-backs are going to surprise a lot of people. They've surprised people all season long, and I don't think it's going to stop. Give me the Dodgers, but I got Dodgers in 5. I think that it's going to be a very close series. I think the Arizona Diamondbacks are just so pesky. They know the Dodgers pitchers very well. The Dodgers know the D-backs pitchers very well. It's going to be an evenly matched series. And I think that, it's going to come down to Game 5. It's going to come down to the Dodgers having that home field advantage. But I think Corbin Carroll, his star power, is going to be on display in this series. And I think what's ultimately going to hurt the D-backs is the fact that the D-backs don't have the quality of arms that the Dodgers have, especially in the starting rotation. The bullpen is great. I think the D-backs bullpen may be better than the Dodgers bullpen, but it's going to come down to starting pitching. And I think that for the D-backs, if they can get a run or get a lead into the late innings, I think the D-backs are going to win. But if they are, if they don't get off to a good start, then the Dodgers obviously have the advantage. So give me the Dodgers in this one. I got Dodgers in 5. Phillies and Braves is a true pickup. I mean, this might honestly go 5 games as well. You know what? I gotta pick against my Phillies. I gotta go Braves in 4. I think that
Hmm.
Atlanta's a really good team. As much as I hate to say it, Atlanta's a really good team. They have really good pitchers. I think what's really going to come back to bite Philadelphia is the lack of back end starting pitching. I mean, Ranger Suarez has not pitched or he has not started in a playoff game. I know they have Wheeler and Nola being their 1 and 2, so I think they're going to split the two games in Atlanta. But when you go back to Philadelphia, it's going to be Suarez, and I don't know who's it's going to be. I think it's going to be either
Walker?
Lorenzen. Who is it?
Maybe Walker?
Well, oh yeah. So you're going to have Walker
Kyle
and
Walker? Yeah.
Suarez, as your 3 and 4,
Walker's not
and
bad.
Walker's not bad. He's not bad. I think Philly has a chance to win that one, but I think it's going to come down to those 2 games in Philadelphia. And if the Phillies can win one of them, that'd be amazing. But I just think the Braves, it's going to be an evenly matched series, but I think it's going to come down to the starting pitching. And I trust the Braves 3 and 4 better than the Phillies 3-4 that they throw out there. And obviously the bullpen. The Phillies bullpen, I think, has the advantage over the Braves bullpen because I like, for the Braves. Who is the Braves closer right now? It's not Jansen anymore, right?
They have Raisel Iglesias.
Oh, Iglesias. So Iglesias has been known to melt down in big
Yes.
moments, and
He has good
so
stuff, but
yeah, he's got good stuff, but he has definitely been known to choke in big moments. Give me, you know what? I'm gonna reverse. I'm gonna, change my prediction. Give me the Braves, but give me Braves in 5. I think it's gonna be an even match series, just like Dodgers and D-backs. It's gonna come down to Game 5. It's gonna be a great Game 5, but it's in Atlanta. You're gonna probably have Wheeler versus Max Fried in that game, so it's going to come down to the late innings. Sadly, I got to trust the Braves on this. They're going to get revenge. Give me Atlanta to win in 5.
Like in the Dodgers, D-backs, Braves, and Phillies series.
yeah, two series that I'm really excited for. You got AL. I was going to say AL, sorry, NL West showdown, and you got an NL East showdown between the two teams. I think that it's going to be close in both of them. I really do. I think that Bulls series is going to go 5. I think that the D-backs are going to keep up with the Dodgers overall for a couple games, but it's just the Dodgers have too much firepower offensively, which the Brewers don't have a lot of offense, at least in the 2 games that they had. The D-backs were down a couple of the games against the Brewers, and they're able to come back because the Brewers' offense wasn't really able to sustain their lead at all. You can't really have that against the Dodgers. You can't be able to fall behind early in games because the Dodgers just have a lot of firepower, and they know that they have the experience to be able to tack on these runs. So, yeah, I'm going to go Dodgers. I'm going to go Dodgers in 5, and I'm going to go with the Braves in 5 too. I do think it's going to be a really good series. I think it goes the distance, but I think that the home field plays a big factor, and I think that the Braves are going to get their revenge.
All right. Anyways, now we're going to go to the American League Division Series. Now we're going to talk about who we like in the Rangers-Orioles series, Twins and Astros. Oh, boy. You know what? In this Rangers-Orioles series, I've lost as much as I love this Baltimore Orioles team. I think Texas is hot right now. I have the Rangers beating the Orioles in 5 just because I think that their timely hitting is going to get to their young pitching for the Orioles. I think the Orioles are good, but I don't think they're there yet. I mean, this team has a future. As for Texas, they're just playing really good baseball. Twins, Astros, I mean, I hate to admit this. I'm going to go with the Astros in a sweep over Minnesota. I know Carlos Correa has what it takes to beat his former team, but my ALCS pick, it's going to be the Battle of Texas. The Rangers and the Astros will be playing in the ALCS. I mean, Isaiah, go ahead with your ALDS pick.
You guys hear me?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
All right. So for my ALDS pick, Rangers and Orioles is going to be a great series. It's going to be a close series. I'm going to go Rangers in 4. And the reason why is because you got experience on one hand with Bruce Bochy, with Corey Seager, Marcus Semien, Nathan Eovaldi. Also, you have Jordan Montgomery as well back in the bullpen with Aroldis Chapman and Leclerc. And also, we can't forget the Rangers also have Robbie Grossman, Mitch Garver. They've been there before as well. And the Orioles, they have a bunch of young up-and-coming stars who, sadly, they haven't been there before. And it's going to come down to experience versus no experience. Experience matters in the postseason. And I think Texas gets off to a quick start. I think they win game 1 in Baltimore. I think the pitching matchup is supposed to be Dane Dunning versus, I believe it's Kyle Gibson. I might be wrong on that, but it's going to be a great series. But starting pitching, I'm going to give it, I think I'm going to give it to the Orioles lineup. It's a toss-up, but it's going to be the bullpen. The Orioles bullpen after the loss of Bautista, and that's a big loss. That is going to really hurt them because they have Cano there and Fujinami, and Fujinami has shown to blow up under pressure. And I think that for the Baltimore Orioles, sadly, I like Fujinami, but he's going to end up costing them a lot of games in this series. And for the Texas Rangers, they look like the 2022 Philadelphia Phillies. They look like to be hitting, to be getting hot at the right time. And I think with Montgomery, with Dunning, with Nathan Eovaldi there, I think that you could count on Eovaldi and also Montgomery to dominate when it comes to the starting pitching and go deep into games. And then that lineup, they just look like they're getting hot at the right moment with Semien, Seager, Dolis Garcia, with Robbie Grossman having a big role. And don't forget, guys, Mitch Garver, who's a very talented hitter, he has not shown out yet in this postseason. I don't think he's even played thus far in this playoffs, and I expect him to have a big series as well. And the legend of Evan Carter will continue in these playoffs. I mean, this kid is just shining brightly right now for the Texas Rangers, and I just think the Rangers' experience is going to end up being very, very beneficial to the Texas Rangers. So give me Texas in 4. I think Texas ends up wrapping it up on their home field. They split the first 2 games in Baltimore. Texas wins game 3, and they win game 4 just based on the starting pitching and also that lineup. But I think we're in for a really good treat of a series. I think that you're going to see these games being decided in the final couple of innings. And I think that, I think 1 or 2 of these games, I really do believe that you could see us having like a 7-6 type of a game because that's how talented and deep both of these 2 lineups are. So give me Texas over the Orioles in 4. And then as far as the ALCS, oh my God. Give me Astros in... I'm going to go Astros in 4 over the Twins. The Astros have had the Twins number in the past. I don't think Minnesota has the lineup when it comes to them matching up lineup-wise over the Astros. Houston's starting pitching is not that deep, so Minnesota has that advantage over Houston. But I just think ultimately the home field advantage just plays better. So give me Houston, and it sets up a Battle of Texas, ALCS, Rangers, Astros, and guys, here's the thing that's really scary. Max Scherzer threw a bullpen today. He's ramping up. So if the Rangers make it to the ALCS, not only could we have Rangers, Astros, ALCS, but imagine Verlander, Scherzer game 1. Eovaldi versus Framber Valdez. Oh my God, I can't wait.
What about you, Ben? Who's your ALCS pick?
Well, obviously, you guys are picking the Rangers to move on, and I wish I could be able to get that trend going. But I'm going to go Baltimore. I think that they're going to win in 5 games. It's going to be a really good series. But I think that just they're at home. I think personally that the Texas is going to lose a little bit of their magic next series. And I think that Cano is good enough to be essentially their closer. I know that obviously Bautista is a massive loss. Texas, I think, in terms of their bullpen, I know obviously they had their flaws, of course, early on in the season. Remember, too, Tampa, their lineup specifically really struggled. I don't expect this Baltimore team. I don't think that their team's really been phased a lot this year. I mean, you look at their offense between Rutschman, Henderson, Mountcastle, Santander. They just have a lot of guys that I think are ready for the big challenge. And I'm going to go on a limb, and I think that Baltimore is going to win that series in 5. I really do. In terms of the Astros Twin Series, I think that the Astros, this is going to be essentially the Marlins Phillies series, but in the American League. A team essentially where they're really young, they have some promise. Pitching's okay, but they're going against the Gauntlet. They're going against essentially the Lions' Den, and that's the Houston Astros. Even though their pitching's a little bit suspect, I mean, hey, you have some guys that have postseason experience. You have Christian Javier, you have Justin Verlander, you have Framber Valdez. I mean, Hunter Brown is essentially like your number 4 right now. And I know that he hasn't been great this year, but he is essentially still pretty solid. And you have Pablo Lopez. Yes, you have let's see. You have Joe Ryan. I think Joe Ryan might pitch in this series. You have Kenta Maeda. But I just really like their bats. The Astros bats. You got Altuve. You got Bregman. You got Alvarez. You got Tucker. You have McCormick. Yainer Diaz has been fantastic this year. That lineup, and you get Michael Brantley back. And he has absolutely been killing it. So their lineup is absolutely loaded. And just I don't think that the Twins could be able to keep up with that firepower. So give me the Astros in 4, give me the Orioles in 5. And then I have the Orioles and Astros, the ALCS, and I think that could be a really electric series too.
That could be. I mean, you're right about that. But now we go to my NLCS prediction. I have the Dodgers beating the Braves in 7, and I have them playing in the World Series. As who I think the Dodgers would play in the World Series, in my bracket, I had Dodgers Blue Jays, but now that it's Astros and Rangers in the ALCS, I have the Rangers beating the Astros in 7. So I have the Dodgers taking on the Texas Rangers in the World Series, and we will get to my World Series winner in a little bit, and then who I have as my World Series MVP. Isaiah, who do you have going to the World Series in the AL and NLCS?
So I got Dodgers and Braves in the NLCS. I got the Dodgers beating the D-backs in 5. I got the Phillies losing. My Phillies losing to the Braves in 5, which will make me absolutely sick. But that's how I gotta go with it. But give me Dodgers and Braves. Oh my! I think we're in for another 7-game treat. I mean, these two teams always play each other, and they always play each other very top and very competitively. Give me the Dodgers to win in 7. I think that this is going to be a back and forth series. It's going to come down to, both of these two teams. A lot of star power, great starting pitching, but it's going to come down to bullpen. I don't trust the Braves bullpen. Specifically, I don't trust Iglesias to not blow games. And I think that the Braves are going to have a couple of games where they're winning, but they're going to blow it light, and that's what's going to end up costing them in this series. So give me the Dodgers to win over the Braves in 7. And then in the ALCS, I have the Rangers, Astros, Battle of Texas. I think Max Scherzer is going to come back for this series. I think he's going to come back in this series. He looks like he's coming back, or he's close to coming back. So in this series, if Scherzer were to come back, starting pitching, Scherzer versus Verlander potentially. You have Valdez versus rejuvenated, again, dominant Nathan Eovaldi. You have Dane Dunning. You have Jordan Montgomery as well. I mean, the Rangers pitching staff, if Scherzer comes back, they will be loaded and they will be deep. And don't forget, you have Martin Perez and Andrew Heaney that you could put.
And John Gray.
What was that?
And John Gray, too.
And John Gray, exactly. So you could potentially
been
put
good.
either Dane Dunning in the bullpen, or you could put John Gray in the bullpen and just lengthen it. So I think the Rangers are going to do what the 2019 Washington Nationals did and just do a piggyback game. Like they have the starters go, probably have Scherzer and Montgomery and Evaldi go deep into games, but then for the fourth starter, they're just gonna have that guy go like have a very short leash. That guy go like 3 innings, and then you have Heaney, Perez, and John Gray lined up, and then you go back to the back end of the bullpen. So, this is going to be a very great series, Battle of Texas. Ben and Loro, I'm going to do it. I'm going to go with the upstart Rangers. They remind me of the 2022 Philadelphia Phillies. They remind me of a team that's going to get hot at the right moment. And, October should be renamed into Bochy, because that's what Bruce Bochy does. It doesn't matter how good of a team he has in the regular season. When they get to October, they're absolutely unstoppable, and they're just dominant. It just seems like Bruce Bochy has the recipe to win in the postseason. And you look at the teams that he's put into October. 2010, the Giants, they were not even supposed to make it out of the first round, let alone win the World Series, and they ended up winning the World Series. Then you look at 2012, that Giants team was supposed to get eliminated in the wild card round, and they went to the World Series and they won it. 2014, supposed to get eliminated in the wild card round, they go all the way to the World Series and they win it. And the only time Bruce Bochy, fellas, has lost in his past, in the past 12 years when it comes to the postseason, early in the postseason before the World Series, it's been in that NLDS against the Chicago Cubs, in which they got hosed, or in which Matt Moore gave it up late. But I mean, Bruce Bochy knows how to win in the postseason, and this Rangers team, I just feel like they just are just hitting the hot stretch at the right possible moment. So give me Texas in 6. I'm going to go with the Rangers in 6. I think the return of Max Scherzer really helps Texas out, and that Rangers pitching staff is going to be lights out in this series, and I think they're going to ride the lights out pitching staff, the timely hits, to a ALCS victory and a spot in the freaking World Series.
Great Dodgers and Rangers in the World Series. Hear me?
Oh, yeah. Sorry. So for me, I have
No, I said, hold on, Isaiah. Do you have Braves?
No, I have Dodgers Rangers.
Dodgers, Rangers, right?
Yeah. Dodgers Rangers World Series.
All right.
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah. So for me, I'm gonna go. So Baltimore, I have beating the Rangers, and then I have the Braves beating the Phillies. So for me to move on, I got the Braves to beat the Dodgers in 6, and then I have the Astros to beat the Orioles in 5. I think that those 2 games, I think both of those series would be awesome to see. So I had the rematch a couple of years ago. I got the Braves and Astros. Uh, they meet again. I think that Houston just plays really well in October. I know that obviously that their pitching isn't as good as previous years, but it's really hard to bet against them. And then the Braves, obviously, this is really a championship or fail for this team, because they really, on paper, I know that sometimes the best team doesn't always win, but this is just a team that is just different. Their offense between Olsen, Acuna, Riley, Rosario, they just have guys top to bottom. Then you have Strider, you got Freed, you got Morton, you obviously have Mitzer and Iglesias in your back end. So, yeah, I'm going with different in terms of the matchup between you guys. I'm going a little boring here, but I'm going to go Braves Astros.
All right. So my pick for the World Series, I'm picking the Dodgers in 7 over the Rangers. And my World Series MVP is going to be Max Muncy, because I think Max Muncy's a guy that still brings the thunder in his bat. And I really think that he's going to have a really good postseason. I mean, there were times where he hit 190 or something like that in the regular season, but I really think he's going to have a good postseason. And Isaiah, who do you like? Who's your pick for World Series MVP?
So for my World Series matchup, like a low roll, I have Dodgers versus Rangers, which, by the way, fellas, that was my pick for the World Series before the season started. So if that comes true, I mean, I should buy some lottery tickets because I actually think I might hit. But joking aside, Dodgers and Rangers. Let's look at the starting pitching matchups potentially in this series. It will be Scherzer versus, I believe it would be Scherzer versus Kershaw to start. And
I
then
would say Arias. Arias is probably their best pitcher.
isn't Urias suspended?
Oh yeah, that's right. He's out. Yeah.
Yeah. So
So it'd be Kershaw. Yeah.
yeah,
you're
so
right.
it would be Scherzer
sorry about
versus
that.
Kershaw if he comes back. Then it would be Nathan Eovaldi versus, I believe, either Bobby Miller. And then you would have, I'm guessing, Jordan Montgomery against Lance Lynn. And then the fourth starter would be Dane Dunning versus
So they Emmett Sheehan and they've got probably Gonsolin.
Okay, so yeah, they're most likely will go with the experience in Gonsolin then. So, Scherzer versus Kershaw, that would be a classic pitchers duel. I think both guys are up for the challenge. This series would be, going into the storyline of the series. I mean, if it's Rangers versus Dodgers, Kershaw versus his hometown team, and don't forget, Max Scherzer and Corey Seager versus their former team. And I think that starting pitching, if you have Scherzer versus Kershaw, it's going to be a lights out pitchers duel. I would not be shocked if it's like a 1-0 game. Eovaldi versus, Bobby Miller or Lance Lynn. I'm guessing.
Give me Eovaldi.
Nasty
Big game, Nate.
Big game,
Remember,
Nate. Yeah.
Isaiah, remember 2018 World Series, the Red Sox against the Dodgers. Eovaldi went into LA and absolutely shoved. He is not afraid of the bright lights.
Exactly. He's not afraid of the bright lights. So, I mean, the Texas Rangers have guys that have been there. They've done it. They're not afraid of the bright lights in Scherzer and Eovaldi. And then you look at the potential Game 3 starter. I'm guessing, it will be Jordan Montgomery who would be making his first World Series start versus Lance Lynn. So, both guys that have been there. Both guys former Cardinal. That should be interesting. And then the last one would be Dane Dunning versus Tony Gonsolin. So, the first two matchups are definitely very exciting. Number 3 as well. Number 4, I'm not really sure about it, but I mean, you look at the starting pitching. Both teams have really good starting pitching. Bullpen wise, give it to the Dodgers definitely, because I don't really trust the Rangers bullpen, but you can't really count them out because they have been lights out as of late, especially against the Rays. But it's going to be that lineup, the battle of the lineups: Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, Chris Taylor, that deep lineup for the Dodgers versus that deep Rangers lineup who 1 through 9, they can absolutely hurt you and just crush you. I think this series, Corey Seager is going to have an absolute crazy series against his former team. I think he's going to go ballistic to try to prove his former team wrong for not re-signing him. I expect him to have a monster series. Guys like Mitch Garver, I think, will be one of the unsung heroes. Guys like Adolis Garcia, first World Series, I think he's going to have a great series. And then for the Dodgers, you have a guy like Mookie Betts, Freddie Freeman, who's going to show out and show up. But I think it really comes down to the pitching. And I think starting pitching-wise, I think the Rangers have the advantage. So give me Texas in 7. The Rangers will go in LA. They'll take Game 7. It's going to be a great 7th game. Scherzer versus Kershaw for all the marbles, fellas. Game 7. Oh, my God. If that happens, sign me up. But give me the Rangers to win that one because right now I trust Scherzer over Kershaw, who right now just is not what he once was. So I'm going to pick Texas to win it. I'm going to go with my original pick that I picked before the season started. And as far as postseason or World Series MVP, you guys ready for this one? This might be a crazy one that will get you, Loro, and Ben, you off your seat. Aroldis Chapman. I think Aroldis Chapman will be the World Series MVP. He's gonna have a crazy World Series. He's gonna have a shutdown World Series, and he's gonna redeem himself from his past postseason collapses, and it's gonna add a stunning chapter to what would have been an absolute stunning crazy ride by the Texas Rangers that Bruce Bochy wins his 4th World Series championship. So give me the Rangers in 7 and Aroldis Chapman. I don't think has a reliever ever won a World Series MVP? I'm not really sure, but
I don't. Yeah.
yeah,
I've never.
give me Aroldis Chapman. I think he's gonna have a lights out postseason for the Texas Rangers.
All right.
You, Ben. Who do you like in the? Who do you like? Who's your World Series MVP?
All right. So, Braves Astros. I mean, you look at it on paper. You got postseason. You have, let's see, you'd have Strider, Verlander, Game 1, which would be absolutely fantastic. You'd have Game 2. You'd have Fried and Valdez, and then Game 3. You'd have Morton against Javier. And then you'd have Game 4. You'd have. I remember always Lance McCullers being great in the playoffs, but they don't have him right now. They would have. Let me see. Game 4 for the Braves. I mean, oof, it would be tough. I mean, but I mean, you look at the offenses; they're both really, really elite. You got Baker against Snicker, really 2 veteran guys that have had postseason experience. That's why I have them both in the World Series. Give me the Braves. I think that the Braves, the Astros' nemesis, come playoff time, especially in the World Series, is playing against National League East teams, and I think that they do it again. Yes, they beat the Phillies. The Astros did to win the World Series as of late, not so long ago. But I just think that the Braves is just their year. I really do. Ozzy Albies, Acuna. I was gonna say Freeman, Olsen. You got Rosario, and then their rotation, just their overall, just top to bottom, they're just loaded. And I think that the MVP would be Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, this guy is essentially probably going to put an absolute show in the playoffs. He, by far, if it wasn't for Ohtani, probably the best player, position player in baseball. Outside Mookie Betts, probably. So, yeah, give me the Braves in 7 over the Astros. The World Series.
All right. Next up here, I mean, now we're going to go to some final thoughts and announcements. I mean, it's been a great show. So, I mean, I'm looking forward to a great postseason, but we'll have Extra Point at some point. We don't know when. And then we will also have a wrap-up show for Batter Up when the baseball season ends, where we can talk about free agents and also talk about how our teams did and all that. And then we'll go from there. Ben and Isaiah, what are your final thoughts?
Yeah, I want to echo what Lolo said. It was a great show. Thank you to everybody for tuning into the program tonight. I'm looking forward to a great postseason. Like you said, Laurel, it's going to be great. We've already had some really exciting stuff. I just wish the playoffs were like the wild card rounds would have been a lot more competitive, because it really wasn't this round. But I mean, the division series hopefully will be great. The championship series definitely, and then the World Series. So buckle up. It's going to be a great ride. I am crossing my fingers that hopefully it's the Rangers versus the Phillies in the postseason, so I won't be able to be sad and lose. Because I have
quickly, one thing, Isaiah. Did you make a bet for the World Series of the Rangers going all the way?
I did.
Okay. I thought I was just believing that, but hey, I can really see it. It's still alive right now, so.
It is. But if they had won the division, it would have been so much better, because then they would have not had to go through both the Rays and the Orioles. But hopefully they get through Baltimore. I know Game 1 is on Saturday. But if they do, then Max Scherzer's coming back, so that would be great for the Rangers. But great show tonight. Looking forward to the playoffs. We're going to have a Batter Up wrap-up show at the end of the postseason, so make sure you guys tune in for that. And then we're going to have like Extra Point. I don't know when, maybe sometime this week or next week we'll have it. But I mean, this is definitely the best time of the year. You got football, you got basketball starting with media day, you have baseball postseason. I mean, it's just crazy that everything's going on. And also hockey's about to begin or has already started with preseason. So a lot of stuff is going on, man. It's one of the most exciting times of the year. And, you know, I can't wait for, you know, Saturday for when we have college football, MLB playoffs, NBA preseason starts on Saturday. You know, NFL is on Sunday. I mean, this is going to be one of the craziest weekends of all time. So I can't wait for it. And the last thing I'll say is, man, watch out for Corey Seager, because this dude is made for the playoffs, and every time the playoffs come, he just shows up and he just shows out. So watch out for him. I won't be shocked if he ends up doing some big things this postseason.
What are your final thoughts, Ben?
So for me, thank you once again for having me on the show for tonight. Really appreciate it. You know, I think for my shows this week, I think we'll have a show tomorrow night. Here with Cruz, we will have the kind of our format in terms of the same stuff as tonight. Go through a lot of the postseason predictions. We will also talk about some of the fire-ins like we mentioned tonight. We'll also do our predictions for this weekend series, a little bit of college football recap, as well as Drew Holiday is going to become a Boston Celtic. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about in terms of the trade, how I feel about it. Of course, the Damian Lillard stuff in terms of the effect on that. And then face-off. Hockey is officially starting next week, regular season. So I'll probably talk with Taylor about that. Maybe me and him will have a show possibly together next week. So obviously keep that, think about that. And then I might have a show this weekend. We can coordinate about that in terms of when you guys want to do Extra Point. But there is a possibility I might be on the Patriots game on Sunday. So I will see specific in terms of if that's the case or not. But yeah, I will let you guys know about if there's a show specific what day this weekend will be. But I do plan to probably have a show tomorrow night.
For Isaiah and Ben, this is Loro. You guys have a great rest of your night, and we leave you with this.
I speak it every day. I'm trying to get it poppin' each and every way. It's one nation under goons. My goons are stripping all these cats down in the under rooms.